The NASCAR playoffs. A perfect championship system with absolutely no flaws whatsoever. Just kidding. The NASCAR championship system is absolutely broken, and NASCAR refuses to acknowledge that or even try to fix it at this point. But hey, it's the sport I fell in love with, so I might as well make a prediction video for the playoffs. And of course, what better way to start off with a prediction video other than to name the 16 drivers eligible in the playoffs? These drivers are Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr., Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, Denny Hamlin, William Byron, Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, Kurt Busch, Michael McDowell, Christopher Bell, Eric Almirola, Tyler Reddick, and Kevin Harvick. Now, with all the drivers out of the way, let's get to my playoff predictions list. Now, my picks to be eliminated in the round of 16 are Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, Eric Almirola, and Michael First, McDowell. Let's start off with the Daytona 500 champion this year. Michael McDowell only has one top 10 out of all of these tracks, out of all the career starts he's had so far. Plus, Front Row Motorsports is a racing organization that hopes to get into the top 20 or top 25 every race. They're not exactly competing with the likes of Hendrick Motorsports or Joe Gibbs Racing to win or be in the top 5 every weekend, you know? And arguably, Michael McDowell has the worst equipment out of everybody that I'm pegging to be eliminated in this round. And now for the Bacon Man, Eric Almirola. Eric Almirola has had an absolutely abysmal 2021. And although he's had slightly better stats than Michael McDowell at some of these tracks, such as finishing top 5 last year at Bristol, the last regular Bristol race we had before the dirt race in the spring, Eric Almirola still just hasn't had the speed to compete with any of the usual contenders for wins this year, and I think he's going to be very easily eliminated from the championship battle in the round. Christopher Bell is in the second year of his NASCAR Cup Series career, and this is the first year which he'll be participating in the playoffs. Likewise, I think that just because this is only his first year in the playoffs, I don't think that he's going to be exactly making too much noise, as this year he hasn't been too much of a contender at most races. You can say that he only really was a contender at places like Loudon, the Daytona road course race, maybe the Bristol dirt race if he didn't get in that wreck with Larson. And I think he's been a car that's hovered around, 15th to 10th all year. And I think that although he's going to have a decent shot at advancing to the next round, I think that he's going to be eliminated in the round of 16 just because this is his first year in good equipment, and I'm not sure if he's going to be able to use that equipment and really outdrive most of the other playoff field. And now for the last driver I have being eliminated in the round of 16, Tyler Reddick. This was definitely a very hard decision to choose who I was going to think would be eliminated in the round of 16 between him and Kevin Harvick, but ultimately I'm going to put Kevin Harvick above him just because he has more experience and because he's had more races this year where, he's been a bit more of a factor. Although Tyler Reddick has really upped his game from last year. This year he's been a much better driver, and he had an insane streak from, I believe, Atlanta to like a few races ago where he only finished in the top 20, and that only ended with a 21st place finish like a few races ago. Once again, I don't remember the exact races. Still, Tyler Reddick has been absolutely awesome this year. He's been right on par with Austin Dillon for best driver from Richard Childress Racing. And I think that Tyler Reddick is going to be eliminated from the playoffs in the round of 16, but just barely by the smallest of margins over Kevin Harvick. Now, my picks to be eliminated in the round of 12 are Kevin Harvick, Kurt Busch, Alex Bowman, and Brad Keselowski. First off, let's start off with the closer, Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick has arguably had his worst year in a lot of years, since maybe 2017 and even before then, probably since 2009 when he had an absolutely abysmal year with Richard Childress Racing. Stewart-Haas Racing as a whole has been very down this entire season, and I don't see them picking it up in the playoffs. I see them focusing more on the next-gen car just because they only have 2 cars in the playoffs, and only 1 car out of Stewart-Haas Racing has a win, and that's Eric Almirola. and I see Kevin Harvick just barely pointing his way into the round of 12. But that is where I think his championship hopes will end. He's been pretty decent at Las Vegas and also at the Charlotte Road Course. But Talladega is a wild card, and I think that this is a rather weak round for him track-wise. And I think he's going to be eliminated in the round of 12 for that reason. Next up, we have Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch is a wild card here. I could see him even being eliminated in the round of 16 if he has really bad luck, just like in 2019, or maybe making a deep run into the playoffs like just last year in 2020. Maybe he'll clutch up and win another race in the round of 12, like last year he did at, I believe, in Las Vegas. But I'm not too sure about him just because he hasn't shown insane speed this entire year. He's had a few flashes of brilliance, like at Vegas and the Daytona Road Course and whatnot. But ultimately, like Kevin Harvick, I don't think I've really seen the speed from Kurt Busch to show me that I think he's going to make it into the round of 8. But I could very well be wrong. Now, saying that Alex Bowman will get eliminated in the round of 12 might be controversial, but I'm only thinking this just because Alex Bowman has been super inconsistent this year. He's had 3 wins, sure, but those are about most of his highlights this year, and you could argue that a lot of his wins are stolen or not deserved. At Dover, pit stops won him the race. At Pocono, he was running second up until Kyle Larson blew a tire, and at Richmond, he outdrove 2 of some of the best in our sport in Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano. You could argue those wins aren't exactly ones where he dominated races, but still, Alex Bowman has 3 wins on the year, but I think he's going to be too inconsistent for his own good that he won't be able to make it past the round of 12. However, a good track for him is coming up. The Charlotte Road Course, where he has an average finish of 4.7, and he has 3 top 10s in all of his races there. He's probably rivaling Chase Elliott for best racer at the Charlotte Road Course. And I think that if he has to, he may be able to win the Charlotte Road Course event just to get his way into the round of 8. That's the way I could see him getting into that more deep playoff run like last year, but ultimately I think he's going to be too inconsistent and just end up exiting in the round of 12. And now for my last driver to be eliminated in the round of 12, Brad Keselowski. He hasn't had the most amazing of years. He's definitely taken a step back from last year in 2020, where he was arguably the 3rd best driver the entire year. But in 2020, Brad still has a win, and he's had a decent year so far. But this round of 12 could be sneakily good for him. It's got 3 really good tracks for him. Well, 2 really good tracks for him, and then a decent track in the Charlotte Road Course. Brad Keselowski isn't necessarily known for his road course prowess, except for at maybe Watkins Glen, but still, the other 2 tracks are really good for him. Listen to this. At Las Vegas, he has 3 wins, and he finished second in the first race here, only to finish behind Kyle Larson. And he also has 6 wins at Talladega, and obviously his only win this year has come at Talladega. So it wouldn't surprise me if Brad Keselowski managed to pull a win out of nowhere at either Talladega or at Las Vegas. And at the Charlotte Road Course, he has 1 top 5 and 1 top 10. Last year he finished 18th. So he's kind of hit or miss on the Charlotte Road Course so far, but still, I would expect his results in the rest of the round of 12 races to carry him to perhaps making the round of 8. And I really would not be surprised if Brad Keselowski did make it into the round of 8 and perhaps pass somebody like maybe Joey Logano or something. I'm not sure. But these are my picks to be ousted in the round of 12. Here we get to the round of 8, where it's extremely difficult to choose a set of 4 drivers who I think are going to make it to the championship 4 above the rest. But the drivers I have being eliminated are William Byron, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, and Chase Elliott. Let's start off with William Byron. William Byron has had a career year this year, but lately I don't think he's exactly had the same speed and consistency he had in the first third of the season. However, I think he's still going to make a deep playoff run and make it to the round of 8, but I just don't think that he has the speed on the tracks that are going to be in the round of 8 that will be able to get him into the championship 4, and I think there are other drivers in this that are going to be left in this championship bracket that are simply better than him and will advance to the championship 4 just because William Byron isn't there yet in terms of skill, you know? Joey Logano is another driver who hasn't exactly had the best couple of races in the past 5 or so. He's had a few wrecks and a lot of unfortunate luck. And although he has some really good tracks coming up in the round of 8, I just don't think that he's going to be able to pull out a win at any of these tracks. I think that he hasn't been that good at 550 horsepower tracks this year. And I think that even at Martinsville, he wasn't the best car at Martinsville, and I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do something like 2018 where he can punch Truex out of the way to get into the round of 8. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Joey Logano will also be eliminated in the round of 8. Ryan Blaney is certainly on a hot streak right now, either finishing first or second in the past 3 races. So he's got a lot of momentum coming his way. But ultimately, I don't think he's going to be able to make it to the championship 4. He's got a lot of good tracks coming up in this round, but once again, I don't think he's going to be good enough to be able to make it to the round of 4 and compete for a championship at Phoenix, just because I think there are other drivers who are better than him at those tracks. And I think that experience is going to ultimately prevail even over if somebody is having a hot streak or not. Plus, last year, we saw Ryan Blaney be eliminated in the round of 16, and maybe he'll have another bad luck streak again. I'm not sure. In the first round, he's got some bad tracks for him career-wise. Stats-wise, Richmond and Darlington aren't exactly the best, so he might drop out even in the first round, even though he's got a lot of playoff points. But nevertheless, I still see Ryan Blaney most likely being eliminated in the round of 8. And finally, I had the defending champion Chase Elliott just barely missing the cutoff for the championship 4. I don't think Chase Elliott is going to make the championship 4 this year, just because he's been kind of middle of the pack at the tracks that are in the round of 8 this year, both for the 550 and 750 horsepower package tracks. I don't think he's exactly been the cream of the crop. He's been, I'd say, in the middle of these 8 playoff drivers, which I've selected to make the round of 8. I don't think he's necessarily better than 4 other drivers at those tracks. And I think that the rest of the championship 4 are all going to be able to use their experience and prevail over Chase Elliott. But I still could see him making it in over somebody like Martin Truex Jr. or Denny Hamlin. But I think Chase Elliott is just going to barely miss the cutoff for the championship 4 this year, and he'll have a rather early playoff exit. And now for my championship 4, those who will be eliminated. I think 3 Joe Gibbs Racing drivers will make it into the championship 4 again, just like in 2019. But I think that all 3 of them are going to ultimately come up short in their battle for the championship. Now let's start with Kyle Busch. On 750 horsepower tracks, Kyle Busch hasn't exactly had the best results. If you look at some of the results, like at Martinsville, he was kind of behind most of the other drivers, even though he just barely snuck into the top 10. I still think he doesn't have the raw speed to be able to contend for a championship at Phoenix. And for Denny Hamlin, obviously he's been really good this year at the 750 horsepower tracks, but I don't think he's going to have more speed than somebody like Martin Truex Jr. or even Kyle Larson. He finished 3rd at Phoenix this year, and he's been pretty strong at the rest of the 750 horsepower tracks. But I think that somebody like Martin Truex Jr., who came out and won the spring race at Phoenix, I think he's going to finish ahead of Denny Hamlin. The 11 necessarily hasn't had race-winning speed this year, and I don't think that's going to change at Phoenix. I definitely remember him almost being in victory lane at Richmond, but I don't think he's going to make it to victory lane at Phoenix and ultimately hoist the championship trophy. I think that Martin Truex Jr. will also finish ahead of him. He obviously won the spring race, and he has shown decent speed at the 750 horsepower tracks along with Denny Hamlin, but I think that he's just been a bit better so far this year. And I think that ultimately, while he's going to finish pretty good at the final race of the year, I think that surprise, my pick for the championship this year is Kyle Larson. I think that with the speed he's shown across all kinds of tracks this year, and the fact that at the spring Phoenix race, he probably would have gone in the top 5 and maybe a runner-up spot if he didn't get a speeding penalty. I think he would have perhaps won that race maybe. I think Kyle Larson is going to be able to win the championship this year and have an insane comeback year to the sport.